Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today we are going to be talking about overvalued players for 2021. We each have a couple of guys that we just think are, just going a little too high in ADP this year. And just, there's a little bit more risk involved than maybe we feel comfortable drafting them at where they are. So we're going to go over those guys. If you haven't heard our undervalued players list yet, go check that out. We released that earlier this week. You get 3 players each that we like for 2021 that we think are going, under where they should at ADP. But here's overvalued. We are going to jump right into it. We got 2 each. Number 2, Jeff, who you got?
Number 2, you're going to disagree with me a little bit on this one.
Oh, interesting.
I'm actually going to go with Terry Mclaren.
No, I don't agree with you.
So I don't hate the player, but right now he's being ranked as like the number 9th wide receiver coming off the board.
I currently have him ranked number 9.
I can't get behind it. And I mean, first of all, there's a bunch of guys right behind him that I think are supremely talented, have more upside than McLaurin does. Obviously, he does have Fitzpatrick. I think that works to his benefit. But the last 2 years, I think he's been ranked 24th best wide receiver both times. Not bad. I mean, he's not a bad wide receiver, but he's gotten a bunch of work, right? He in his first year as a rookie, 93 targets turned into 58 catches, 919 with 7 touchdowns, right? Mm-hmm. Ranked 24th overall. Really solid. And that was missing 2 games. And then last year, he missed 1 game. He played 15. 134 targets. I don't think he's going to go over that. 87 receptions for, a little over 1,100 yards and only 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns could go up. Maybe he has some down the field catches because of Fitz. He likes to throw it a lot more. But I just can't get behind the idea that he's a top 10 guy. And that's where it's strictly because he was ranked number 9. And then you have like people like CeeDee Lamb or even Amari Cooper or I would have to pull it up, but there's a ton of people right behind him that you're kind of like, I would rather have those guys, even Julio. Like I think those upsides are a lot more. And I think it'll be interesting with that team. I just don't have a good feeling about Washington football team. They have some really fun guys, but they're trying to put it together. They're kind of building something new. I think Terry McLaurin will be the number 1 there, but I don't think he's going to surpass the numbers he did last year by maybe a few more touchdowns. But even then, he'll be within the top 20. Like if he was like 15 to 18, I'd be like, yeah, that's about right. But I'd be very upset if I drafted him in the top 10.
See, I like the improvement from year to, okay, it's funny. I like the improvement from year 1 to 2, but like you said, he finished 24th both years, so it kind of feels weird. His targets did go up 40. He caught 30 more balls. He had 200 more yards, but in standard scoring, he still ended up being 24th because those receptions don't count for anything in standard, and he had 3 last touchdowns. So yeah, that is part of the thing there. I think a lot of this is, for me, this is his best quarterback situation he's going to have. Ryan Fitzpatrick, funny enough, is his best quarterback situation. Year 1, where he showed a lot of promise, he had Case Keenum and he had Dwayne Haskins throwing him the ball. Not terribly impressive. You don't really love that. Last year, he had Alex Smith, Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen throwing him the ball. And then Taylor Heineke later on. Yeah. He has not had quarterbacks that Alex Smith is the best he's had. He really hasn't had anything. I just feel like with Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's going to be unlocked this year. But again, I could go around and see your side, or I could even make an argument if I was trying that maybe that was his peak because he's he's already going to be 26 this year. It's not like you think about somebody like Juju who's like in year 4 and is still like
22,
10 years younger than Terry McLaurin. It's funny how that works, right? He's been in the league forever. He's younger than McLaurin. So sometimes you might look at that and be like, okay, the normal progression maybe isn't going to happen. It's not going to keep happening because he's already at 26 years old. He's not 22 to 23 or something like that. So you can see that and maybe that's a concern, but I think it's going to happen because of the quarterback situation. And that's where I like it. It's not necessarily that he himself is going to be getting so much better than he is. I just think he's at a good level. Finally has a good quarterback situation, which good. I don't want to say that Ryan might be over, stating what Ryan Fitzpatrick is, but
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
He's capable of throwing it down the field and making things happen. But Washington does have a pretty good defense as well. Yeah. I think that they kind of like Antonio Gibson.
Yeah,
up. No, I mean,
and I just
like,
but
control the ball.
I don't know if that's Antonio Gibson either, though. Like if he's that.
We don't. I mean, that's the thing with this team. We don't really know. Yeah. So I give it. I think my biggest one is like you have those worries, or at least I have those worries. I understand when you talk about purely talent and what he's been able to do. Even though he's been in a crap situation, I totally agree with you. But when I start reading like the next 7 names, especially off of this list, I'm like, I would take each one of these guys over him. And I mean, you just go down the list, and this is ADP, but it'd be Allen Robinson, Julio Jones, Mike Evans, CeeDee Lamb, Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin. It's hard to argue being like, okay, I mean, for me, I'd be like, if I really put Terry McLaurin up there, I'd be like, I don't think I'm doing this because of logic. I think I'm doing it because I want him to do well.
I have
because of the talent he does.
I have McLaurin ranked one spot ahead of AJ Brown.
So. Yeah, see, I mean, and I could make that argument for AJ Brown. You can argue any way you want.
I almost put AJ Brown on this list. To be honest, I didn't, but he's wide receiver 6 right now.
I could make that argument. I don't agree with it, but I could make it because of the targets. Like. Yep. Terry McLaurin should get the amount of targets you need in order to take the next step. He did last year. So I could see it from that point of view. But anyway, Terry McLaurin is my number 2 because of where he shows up. Number 9 ranked wide receiver for 2021.
All right. So people are just going to think this list is going to be like, okay, shut up, Craig. You're talking about the same things over and over again. But I'm going to do it anyway. Number 2 on my list, James Robinson.
Okay.
He's running back 22 currently in ADP. Which to me, you might think, oh, what? No big deal. He's down there, right? Don't worry about it. No, that's way too high. He sucks. I'm sorry. Listen to my last episode if you really want to know about how I feel about Etienne. But I love Travis Etienne. He is so much better than James Robinson. I thought James Robinson was just like in the fantasy world was going to go away when Travis Etienne was drafted. And to my surprise, he is not. He has not gone away. He's still there. He's still around. I don't care if he's running back 30. If he drops to running back 30, before these drafts, if he's lower than 22, which I think he will. I think he should drop. I don't even care if he drops to 30. That's too high. That's too high. Running back 35? No, that's too high. 40? Maybe. I'll give you 40. I'll give you running back 40. And that's about all I'll give you. Because I don't really think he's any good. Okay, I'm going to be a little harsh. I don't know. I don't want to. He did fine. He did really well. He worked really hard in 2020, and he turned it into a decent amount of yards off of 1,000 carries, right? He had.
I feel terrible in this situation because I agree with you, but I almost feel like I have to protect him a little bit because when you start talking like this, I'm like, no, he had a really good year.
He did. He really did. He had a good year. He had 240 carries. He turned it into 1,070 yards. It's a beautiful 4.5 yards per carry.
It's very solid. And 7 touchdowns.
Fine. He
overexceeded everything.
A beautiful 74 yards a game. Real cool, real impressive, right? Just real solid.
He was he was 7th best running back overall. I don't want to take anything away from the guy because I completely agree with you. And I was shocked when you showed me that. In ADP,
and I think he's going to go down from that. I don't think that's going to once a lot of these majority of these drafts are going on and ADP starts to switch around. I do think he's going to drop back.
Yeah, but how far do you actually think he's going to drop? Because right now he's 22. That has to be the highest, right?
So he's 22. These are the players that he's ahead of that I think he will go behind. Kareem Hunt, I think will go ahead of him.
It falls off pretty quick.
Gaskin probably go ahead of him. Gordon probably goes ahead of him. I think Raheem Mostert goes ahead of him. I still feel like Etienne's going to go ahead of him in ADP at some point.
Well, he should.
And the other guy who I think is Javonte Williams. I think Javonte Williams is going to have a little bit of a
that guy is almost starting to get to a point where we can talk about him.
He's not yet, but I think he might get there.
And you can see it coming. That's the difference. Is he's not ranked there currently, but the way people are talking about him, come a month from now, I have a feeling he's going to be the darling.
Well, and there's another guy that we didn't talk about on undervalued, which I feel like the hype I've already started to hear a little bit of it is Damian Harris, and I think he's going to go ahead of Robinson possibly. Because Harris is 34 right now, and I've already been hearing these rumblings. He's clear number one. So I think he's going to jump up. So there's a few guys. David Johnson.
And I like Damian Harris, but it's definitely going to be some flip-flopping.
I don't care. All those guys can go ahead of him. Still too high. I do not want James Robinson on my team. I don't. I just don't want him. at all. I don't want James Robinson. I'll say it again. I don't want James Robinson. So if he's good, yeah, throw it back in my face. Sure. But you know what? He's an undrafted free agent who, like we've said over and over again, this just doesn't happen. You know what? If he's the next Arian Foster, Priest Holmes, awesome. Great. You know, it's one of these once every however many years players. Maybe he's that guy. Maybe he is. But the chances that percentage chance is so low that I'm not taking that chance on my fantasy football team. I don't have that risk. I don't want to take that risk.
Also, if he was that guy, I don't think they would use a number 1 draft pick to get Etienne.
Exactly. Urban Meyer comes in there and gets another back. And they keep saying Etienne's their pass catching back and use him that way. You don't draft just a strict pass catching back in round 1. You don't do it. You just don't.
No, and we all saw how good Etienne was in the biggest games.
Yeah. Yep. So just don't even put James Robinson on your draft board. I don't care. Just skip him. Go draft, Damian Harris. Go draft Michael Carter from the Jets. Go draft. I don't freaking care. Go draft Trey Sermon. Like maybe that works out. Go draft Devin Singleton. Ooh, I don't know. I might draw the line there.
Don't even bring that one up. That one hurts.
Go draft J.D. McKissick. Okay,
no, I'm kidding. The pass catching back from Washington. Let's do this.
But you know what? I'm sorry. Can't do it. Can't do it, James Robinson. Very sorry. I don't know why I hate James Robinson so much. I don't know what happened.
It's never. I never hate a player. I always dislike
the hype of
a player. Yeah. And with him, he deserved all the hype from last year. But I can't wrap my head around the fact that you draft a guy like Etienne at the position you did, and then there's people out there that do not think that it's going to hurt James Robinson's stock. Right. It has to.
Speaking of hating hype of players, what's your number 1, Jeff?
Okay, well, we all know what number 1's going to be. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be for both of us, but we have to go with Cam Akers.
100%.
He's ranked right now as the number 10 running back overall. We accidentally started talking about him when we were talking about undervalued players because it directly relates to the other running backs we love that come after him. And, second year guys, we're talking about Swift and Dobbins, how we love them so much. Akers is another second year guy. We do think that he has promise. I do not hate Cam Akers. I do not hate James Robinson. I do not hate these guys that we talk about. They're not necessarily bad players, but you're looking for upside. And when you're drafting a guy in the top 10, he better give you a lot of points. And Cam Akers, maybe he will. He could be the primary back, but he has a giant question mark hanging over his head. And you also, so first of all, he came out at the very end of the year in like the playoffs. They gave him a bunch of carries. It wasn't particularly great rushing defenses. On top of that, you got rid of Goff. You got the quarterback that McVay, the head coach, desperately wanted. You have Cooper Kupp. You have Woods. You have Higbee. And then you still have other running backs in there. So everything that I look at points to Cam Akers should still be working his way to be the number 1 back. But in no way is he a guaranteed top 10 or even a top 20 back. He could still be stuck in a 3-back rotation, even if he is the best one there, and they could be throwing the ball a ton more. You're saying, oh, Jeff, what if he catches it? He could, but he hasn't shown that yet. So I'm not sure where people are kind of getting this idea that he's worthy of a top 10 pick.
So it comes from basically 2 things happened with Cam Akers. He played great against the New England Patriots in week 14 and had 29 carries for 171 yards. And a lot of people watched that game and it got in people's minds. So that right there was huge for him. He followed that up with a beautiful 15 for 63 game. Love it. Great job. And then he even followed that up with even a better 21 carry for 34-yard game. Awesome. Great job, Akers. Great job. You did awesome. This is where it comes from that everyone just fell in love with Akers, and it was the playoffs. That's where it was. Yeah. It was against the Seahawks, 28 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown. And then against the Packers, 18 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown. That's where it came from. He looked good in the playoffs when everyone was watching. 100%. That's where this hype comes from. And sure, he had a great game against Seattle. He really did. That's very solid. That's a lot of carries. If you expect, here's the thing. He had that other 29 carry game too. Do you think that McVay would have been running him like that if he had this workload for the entire season? No. He didn't have much work on him for the entire year. And so he's fresh at the end of the season. Not as many people are, especially in COVID. That was just a weird year. Go run Cam Akers, who's fresh, and just run through people because everyone else is just dead tired. And you know what? He did. He looked pretty well doing it. I cannot see McVay running another running back into the ground like he did Gurley. And I think he knows what he did with Gurley. Gurley has already had some injury stuff, but he took some years off Gurley's career.
Well, also, Cam Akers is not Gurley. Gurley was
no, he's not Gurley. He's not that.
When you talk Gurley, you're talking
Gurley,
like Saquon. You're talking,
Gurley was just, it's crazy that we talk about Gurley in past tense already.
I know. It's really wild.
So it's nuts, but
he was one of the most talented backs coming out of college in the past.
You know, it's really sad,
few
actually.
decades.
It really is, because he was so good. But those injuries got him. But McVay had a role in that. He ran him, but that's what you do. It's
also the NFL back in the day, especially.
And I do not see that happening.
Back in the day, it was like 5 years ago.
I don't see that happening again. I can't see him doing that. And I don't think that's the way to do it. Daryl Henderson is not going away. If you look at Daryl Henderson's numbers last year, Cam Akers' numbers last year, they are almost identical in touches. Henderson has more yards. Henderson has more touchdowns. And actually, I think he had a few less touches. If I remember correctly. I don't have the exact numbers. I think it was, here we go, 154 touches for Henderson last year, and he turned that into about 780 yards or so. Cam Akers here, he had himself 156 touches, so 2 more touches. He turned it into 740 yards. So yeah, more yards for Henderson. Henderson had 5 touchdowns, I believe. Akers had 3 touchdowns. That's another thing. There's no touchdowns from Akers. Like, he wasn't like we talked about Swift and Dobbins who were getting these touchdowns, and even with limited carries, Akers wasn't getting them. So I don't know. I just don't. You know what? We've even put Akers on like breakout players lists early on. Like when we were talking about 2021, like Akers could be a breakout player. Really could. Yes, he could. But people have all of a sudden just started ranking him like he's already there. And that's the problem I have with him. And like you said, number 10 at running back, that puts him at 15 overall in ADP I'm looking at right now. So he goes ahead of like DeAndre Hopkins, who's just a sure thing. I might go receiver at that point. DeAndre Hopkins is such a sure thing. He's ahead of DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is such a sure thing. And that's the thing. I'm not necessarily even saying he's the running backs around him it's that crazy, which I think it is. I'd go receiver all day rather than go with him. But there's no way in my mind that Akers should be different from Dobbins and Swift. It just, another guy who just people are just completely downgrading and goes way behind Akers now is like a Josh Jacobs, who has actually been a good running back. And because they go and sign Kenyon Drake, everyone thinks Josh Jacobs is done. It's over. I think Jacobs is much more just safe than an Akers even. But I don't know. It's just, he's not a running back. Can you imagine Cam Akers as your running back one?
No, I mean, it'd be terrifying.
I can't do it.
No, if you were talking about him the same way people are talking about Swift, I would be like, yeah, that would be a great place to get him. Mm-hmm. You're a number, he's like a back end number 2 running back that has upside. Great. But yeah, if he's the guy that not only is he your number 1 running back, but like you said, he was like 15th overall in ADP. I mean, he has to deliver.
Mm-hmm. He does. And that is scary to me when in reality, his numbers weren't better than Daryl Henderson's.
No.
So people will go say, well, yeah, Akers had all the workload at the end of the year, and he had a lot of it. Yeah, he did. But that's because he didn't play for so long. Can he do that over the course of a year? Will McVay let him do that over the course of a year? I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. It's different. Stafford's there. We don't know what it's going to be. Just, I cannot imagine them running him into the ground. I can't imagine it.
And they're going to, it'll be very interesting to see how McVay does it. He's not going to go away from the run, but I do think that he is going to hand over that offense to Stafford very quickly.
I mean, I see people predicting 280 carries from Akers.
What?
No. No. I
mean, that's not going to happen.
No. And I don't know. I don't hate Cam Akers. I don't want people, I truly don't hate Cam Akers. And in a normal circumstance, if he's down there ranked with Dobbins and Swift, I'm like, that's another solid value of a player I'd like to get. But he's not my running back 1. So, there it is. So I guess we're officially the Cam Akers hater guys. So I'll take it.
It just turned out that way.
Yep. So again, don't hate the player, hate the hype. That's all it is.
A new T-shirt? What are we trying out slogans?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. That's a good one. Let's do that.
Yeah, why not? I like it.
Don't hate the player, hate the hype.
Yeah, it's very true. Truer words.
It is. And I hate your quarterback. I don't hate Stafford, but I do.
I can't hate him. You watch the end of that game when he gets hurt. He comes back in and he throws a touchdown, man. He has my heart for life, man.
Oh, man, you're right. The game against the Browns.
Yeah. I mean, who else? I mean, he's the reason, a large reason why Calvin Johnson has the single season receiving record.
I have watched that clip so many times in my life.
Because no one else saw it outside of Detroit, and it was amazing.
Oh,
what an amazing young quarterback. I'm really rooting for him. I hope he does. I know every podcast we end this way.
The Lions have their first round draft pick. Come on.
Oh, no. I want them to suck, but I don't want him to suck.
But then it's just Stafford of old. 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 6-10 or 6-11 it would be.
Yeah.
That's right. That's going to be weird to get used to. 17 games. But all right, there we go. That's all I have today for overvalued players. I'm sorry, Akers people. And if there's a few of you James Robinson people out there, if there's a James, at least I can get Cam Akers. If you're a James Robinson guy, just stop.
Yeah, at least you can get him later, though. No, I mean, you're kind of like, I'll take a shot at him. I can get on board with that.
No, I can't. I
if
can't.
you really like him that much, I'm okay. But
I'm going kicker at that point.
Just gotta shore up the line.
Give me cool. I'm good. All right, that'll be it for this week. Talk to you guys next time.